Back on Mediacom Channel 22, talking Cougars soccer and our season recap of this past season for the Columbia College Cougars. And again, another trip to the national tournament for Coach John Klein's Cougars. And Coach Klein joining me now. Several of your players, let's see if I get these right here. Nikola and Dylan, All-Americans, second year in a row for those two players. And then you had Edgar Reyna also picking up All-American honors in his first season with you as a junior. Then you also had some scholar athletes with Milos and Tim Tevlin and Dan Rapp also picking up those awards. Obviously, we talked with Coach Washington too. It's not just on the field, but it's in the classroom and keeping the grades as well. And as student athletes, and you guys have always had a lot of athletes that are both, high award winners on the field and also in the classroom.
Yeah, that's great representation from the team. I mean, that's 6 out of 20 guys. Close to a third of the team gets All-American recognition at the end of the year, and all 6 of them worthy of the honors that they've earned. Start with the academic guys. Milos is just exceptional in the classroom. I don't know if he's ever had a B, on a grade check. And Tim Tevlin and Dan Rapp. And Dan's really, only a sophomore as a player, but has junior academic recognition, and so he qualified for that as well. So I don't know that we've had 3 of those guys get that honor. That's an exceptional honor. And then on the field, you start with Nikola, third team. Certainly, I think Nikola is our hardest worker, our overall our very best player. He brings another level to the field, and to be on the third team, that puts him in the top 33 soccer players of the NAI. Talking about 230 soccer teams, 20 to 25 players per team. I mean, top 33 out of about 5,000 soccer players. I think that's a great honor, great recognition. And then, Dylan and Edgar were both worthy as well. So they both receive honorable mention, and we're certainly considered, for those first 3 teams. But great honors, and the best thing about it is they're all back for another year. So we'd like them to perform again, and maybe even get another 2 or 3 guys in that consideration next year.
And this winning becomes habit forming a lot within the institution at Columbia College with other teams. But now you put 2 back-to-back tournament runs together. It had been since 2003 before last year's team that you were in a national tournament. Now you do it back-to-back seasons. The main nucleus of your ball club is there. Sure, like we mentioned, the one of the key positions, obviously, a goaltender is going to be a battle there. But that's got to be a good feeling for you as you're in this kind of recruiting and rebuild mode for next season, as far as not necessarily rebuild, but additional players, that that you've got a great nucleus to build on, and those guys can help you build from within with that hunger to continue to
absolutely.
succeed.
We don't have to just fill positions. We can be extremely selective, which we have been, for several years now. And there's a couple local guys here in Columbia that coming out of high school that we're interested in. Coach Deshay went to the junior college national tournament. There's some junior college players that we're interested in. Had a great group in last week. Had 27 guys come in, and certainly a bunch of good players to choose from. I mean, we want to find the right fit for Columbia College in terms of a student athlete, someone that wants to get it done in the classroom, someone that wants to work hard on the field, and we're looking for guys that can come in and contribute immediately.
And again, that's a huge key as far as when you guys are recruiting. We've talked about it on previous shows with Coach Deshay and yourself. You're not just recruiting them as a soccer player, you're recruiting them as a student athlete, as a person, and with the thought process of how will they gel with the rest of the mentality of the ball club that you have.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for that complete package. The student athletes are looking for a complete package in the school. We're looking for a complete package in the student athlete. I think we have a lot to offer at Columbia College. So we're looking for those guys that really want to be here, be in an extremely competitive environment, be here in Columbia, Missouri, and be here in the Columbia College, small college atmosphere.
Now, what is it for the soccer players when you're a fall sport, the season is over now? Do you have any kind of practices as teams now, or is that official? I mean, how does that work as far as in this transition for the rest of the season?
No, we get a spring season, so we have 24 weeks to compete during the school year, and we probably use 12 or 13 of those So, the guys will come back, we'll send them home here for break. They take exams next week. They'll come back in January, give them 2 or 3 weeks to get settled, and then we'll get into our spring season. We have 3 dates that we can compete against other college programs. So, we'll have an 8 or 9 week training program in the spring, and we'll get some good competition. We'll test them. I know we've got Truman on the schedule. I think Mid-America Nazarene will be one of our opponents, and I've still got to add one or two teams to that spring schedule. But spring's a good test, and we challenge ourselves to win in the spring as well. And we've had great success in the spring, and we generally see that carries over to the fall preseason.
Overall, if you had to put a letter grade on this 2010 campaign for your Cougars, what would you write down?
Boy, I was pleased. We had an extremely challenging schedule, some great soccer matches. I guess I have to give them an A-. I think you'd have to get to the Final Four to get to an A+, and I think to get to Orange Beach in Alabama would have been an A. I think we were close, but we just didn't quite finish it off. But we put ourselves in the position. The team was capable. I think next year's team is already capable. If we can add 2 or 3 elite players, I think this team can perform again next year at a high level. And
you look at one of the situations earlier that kind of helps for next year is when Brian Ike got injured early. It kind of gave you an opportunity that between Tom Vincents and Dan Rapp got probably more playing time than they might have originally gotten to fill in his role a little bit, gave you a chance to look at those guys more, and they certainly ended up having a big role for the team down the stretch.
Boy, those 2 guys did. That's just 2 good, hard-working St. Louis boys, smart kids, and very disciplined and very coachable. They do it the way you ask them to do it, and I was real pleased with those 2 guys stepping into key roles for us in the backfield this year.
Then the experiment with Nicola maybe in the midfield back, depending on what you end up adding. Obviously, that's still something that you probably tinker with a little bit.
I don't think it turned out quite the way I envisioned, in terms of goal production or point production.
Right.
Really didn't happen, but he certainly is physical in the center of the midfield, doesn't lose a head ball, very intimidating, very strong on the ball, great distributor of the ball. If he is in that role again next year, I'd certainly like to see him, strike some balls and score a goal or 2. I still remember the great goal that he scored in the air against Park a year ago, but Nicola didn't score this year. So, but there's a lot that goes on in the center of the midfield, and he accomplished a lot in there. Whether or not he's in there again next year is still to be determined.
We'll find out as the Cougars continue their off-season transition as far as the players, obviously the classroom work, and then before we know it, it'll be time for another soccer match out at our Marvin Owens. We'll turn the page to the 2011 season. Coach, thank you for your time on the show throughout the year. Appreciate stopping by and bring some of the players by throughout the year.
Thanks, Cosmo.
Congratulations on another great run back to the national tournament. We'll look for a 3rd trip next season, the Columbia College Cougars. And again, a great season at 12-6-3. Coach says A-. All right, there you go. That's pretty good. I'll take an A-. You've been watching the Columbia Cougars Coaches Show on Mediacom Channel 22. Thanks for watching.